Hey, welcome to Daily Revelations. Thanks for joining me. So this morning, I'm going to dive into a little bit more in Exodus. We've been kind of going through, this lighting is really bad. Do that. We have been going through the Bible, starting in Genesis, now into Exodus. And I was reading Exodus 11 through 13 today. And I've always read the story of Moses and the plagues from the perspective of Pharaoh and Moses, because that's the way it's written. But today I took a different perspective on it. And it was like, God just saying, have you ever thought about what this was doing to the people of Israel during this process and why I also had to go through these plagues for them? No, I had not. And so that's what I dove into today. And I realized that after it had been 430 years. That's what it says in the readings that I had today, that they had been in Egypt. And they had lost sight of who God was, because they had been in this land. They'd been living surrounded by these false gods, and they worshiped them, just like the majority of the other Israelites. There were some, I'm sure, because Moses' family showed that stuck to their traditions and worshiped God alone. But there were many who did not. And they had just fallen into the ways of the world, as we call that, and professed to follow the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and, their ancestors, but yet had all of these straggling gods that they also worshipped as well. So God not only had to destroy in the eyes of the Egyptians that their gods were not real, but he had to destroy in the eyes of the Hebrews that the gods that they had falsely idolized were not real as well, and to crush them. Because if he didn't, once they got out of Egypt, there would be mass chaos on who was to follow, who was in charge, and who was God. He had to prove himself to them as well as the Egyptians that he was the one to follow, and that he had chosen Moses, and Moses was his spokesperson, and he was the one to listen to. So that was an interesting perspective I've never taken on that scripture before, and how important it is when God is going to be doing something big to crush the other gods that are in our lives that we don't even realize we're idolizing, because they're part of our society. And God does that in how he works out circumstances, and he leads us through some yucky places, just like these plagues. But through them, can we see that he is crushing what is not real, what is not true? And he's making for us a better perspective to see the world from, where he is God, and everything else that we have the temptation or what's put before us to idolize is not real and should not be put on a pedestal and be thought of more than we think of God. So he's crushing those false gods all around us all the time. Are we willing to say, yes, that needs to be crushed, I'm going to let it go? Or are we going to be like those Israelites who, as soon as they walk out of Egypt, which we're going to be going to next in the story, and say, things were probably better back there. And you know what? I think those gods had a lot more going for them. So blindsided that they saw all of these gods crushed, and yet some of them still went back to idol worship. It's our nature. Our sinful nature draws us to stuff that we can hold on to. We can materialize. And yet God says, none of that. You need to worship me, follow me, trust me, even though you can't hold on to me or control me. I will make it the best if you follow me. So that's what I have to share with you today. And it's an interesting perspective, to say the least. But it's going to make me look a little bit different at all my circumstances, definitely. And what is God doing to crush those things around me? And am I willing to let go of them quicker instead of hang on to them to the point where he needs to do something drastic to get them out of my hands? I'd rather not, but I'm also blindsided. We all are. And sometimes we need that little wake-up call that we're holding on to the gods of this world a little too tightly. Definitely anything is too tight if we hold on to them. So anyways, thank you for joining me for Daily Revelations. And I'll see you again tomorrow with whatever God has for me to share with you.